Hi all. So my name is Anton Panfilov. Today I will be reading most of my report from my laptop so that you understand me better. So I'm a sound designer and composer in Ukrainian game dev studio 4Friends, which has been working with playrix for years. Also, I am a musician, multi-instrumentalist in Cloudless Orchestra, and tonight you can hear us and come to our place. And given that our studio is Ukrainian, it's obviously that I will be touching on the tragic events that began on February 24th as well. My report will not be an ordinary one, and here is why. First, me and our studio are from Ukraine, and I will cover how the war has affected the team, the work processes, and me personally. I will share a list of best practices for working in crisis situation. Secondly, I am a sound designer, and lately I've been able to hear some unique sounds in war, which are hard to find in normal times. I will share and describe this experience. I will tell you how to make a sound of a nice, cute scene during cruise missile arrivals in Lviv. Thirdly, the band and I are participating in a charity tour, and we're going through all Europe. We're going more than 7,000 kilometers, and today I'm glad to be here. And you will learn how to perform to support your country with the help of your friends and colleagues from the game industry. And fourth, this is my first talk in the game industry, so I hope you will find it interesting. Let's go. Little bit about me. And now, my own project manager. A little bit about how the work caught up with me and how my work is connected here. On February 12th, my band and I were participating in a live broadcast of the Ukrainian selection for Eurovision, Ukrainian selection. We were finalists this year. And even then there were thoughts, I wish it had not started. I wish it had not started, for now at least. During the last months, the situation was aggravated by news about the presence of a thousand Russian military hardly near the borders of Ukraine. On February 20, I flew to Spain for a mini vacation after the band's participation in the broadcast. And on the morning of February 24, I just got out of bed around 5 a.m. I was getting calls on every messenger. Apple Watch was bursting with messages and calls. Just last night I closed my tasks. Life seemed to be flowing, but the real war began. What followed was a couple of weeks in a fog. The mind was apart from body. Everything seems like a dream. Obviously, all the work processes in the studio had stopped. The studio launched processes of evacuation, employee support, extra payments, and etc., something like this. There were calls with the entire studio where we discussed actions, required help, and whether everyone in general was okay. On the first calls, we shared our hopes that everything would be over in a few days or week, and we really believed in that. On the second call, we were already discussing where to relocate within Ukraine. Personally, I was in Lviv, but originally I'm from Donetsk, and I'm living in Kyiv. So, the subsequent calls were already directed strictly on humanitarian and financial support of employees. For what huge gratitude to management of 4Friends Studio and playrix, as many employees could evacuate their families to the western part of Ukraine, who have not had time to settle in the apartment rented by studio in Chernivtsi. Of course, we did not talk about working processes in these first weeks. The studio gave all the employees extra paid leave. A month and a half after the start, the studio began to rock and set up the issuance of tasks, which take a small amount of time in the context of one working day. At least that's how it was for me. I struggled to open my laptop, struggled to find even just a folder of my project. Workability was at a standstill. In the long run, however, this effort, with daily attempts at work, made a huge difference. Step by step, day by day, I worked more and more, taking on more and more difficult tasks, which later on helped me get out of my depression in utter desolation. Anyway, February, Spain, no palm trees, paellas and jamons mattered. My soul was longing to go home. On March 5th, I was in Lviv and I did some volunteer work, which I will talk about a little bit later. To summarize, I made the following takeaways from crisis self-management. It's incredibly important to find the right evidence-based psychologist, psychoanalysis, cognitive behavioral therapy, crisis psychology. It may be necessary to contact a psychologist during this period and for every day. This is normal. I called my psychologist when I got dramatically worse when I was driving a pickup for Ukrainian army from Krakow to Kiev. It is important to be supervised, but a specialist who can detect unwanted mental processes in time, as scary as it may sound, and maintain a conditionally normal state, which is perfectly possible thanks to psychologists. It is important to understand that the reactions of the organism, our psyche, as well as our thoughts, whatever they may be, are our normal reaction to abnormal circumstances. So, in the beginning and during the crisis, don't put pressure on yourself. Don't demand more than you can do today, even if it's a task that takes half an hour and you only have the strength to do it. Do exactly what you have the strength to do. No need to push you or force yourself to close 10 tasks today, because this strategy will lead to rapid fatigue, burnout, and even the beginning of depression. In the long run, prize yourself as you accomplish even a micro task, and do not scold yourself for allegedly having done little. When I speak of a crisis situation, I mean some circumstances that threaten life or health. Of course, this does not refer to extreme situations in which a person may be directly under fire. It's all on common sense. This advice can be scaled according to the situation. Gradually build up your capacity to work once the crisis has begun. As soon as the opportunity and favorable circumstances present themselves, simply put in the absence of immediate danger to life. Obviously, you shouldn't neglect the air raid alarm, for example. Actually, a few minutes ago, alarm in Kiev has finished. Simple advice, but not everyone likes to follow simple rules. I try to do so between air alerts in Kiev. In my case, for months, I increased the hours I worked every day and the numbers of tasks I took or was assigned on. Needless to say, we discussed beforehand with the manager whether I would be okay to take secondary tasks without strict deadlines, and warned me when my condition got completely worse and I needed to free my mind from any activity, because fear and panic can eat up all the remaining energy to work instantly. In this way, I was able to reach 70–80% of my pre-war capacity to work. This process is not quick, but it's different for everyone, but definitely better than being in a state of apathy for longer. Also, don't be afraid of regressions. When On any given day, you may feel a sharp fatigue, panic, or fear. It's a reaction of the body and psyche. Again, I'm talking about extreme situation involving military action. It is possible to scale it down, keeping the principle itself. It's really important to watch carefully the tendency to increase the time to work, so as not to overdo it. At some point, we come to the point where we no longer force ourselves to open the laptop and do simple tasks, and that there is again some excitement from completing tasks and favorite work, but we still feel the dead battery effect. It is clear that we are in a burnout state. It is important that we got out of apathy and depressive states, not without the help of psychologists, of course. As an option, at this point, you can go on vacation, obviously, for a few weeks, in which we won't open the laptop, read the news, and surf on the phone at all. Very important point. So, regarding information and news consumptions, those your information consumptions from the first days of some bad events. Don't read them every 2 minutes like I did the first weeks after the war started. At some point, I came to feel physical pain when experiencing emotions and stress when watching the news. Leave only the news, like the app that alerts you to the air raid alert, or like I have on my Apple Watch, or leave some channel of information that informs you only about vital events. It's very hard to give up the phone in our life and the news, but it's important to understand that in the constant stress or daily reading, the psyche won't last long. My psyche in this mode was already shutting down my body in the afternoon. By the third day, I was just falling asleep. Of course, all of these tip-offs should not be taken verbatim. You may find some general principles, and perhaps for some you need less effort, for others more. Sound design of a real war. I tell you about observing sounds that from a professional point of view could be called unique. Because these are sounds most people have never heard in reality and hopefully never will. These are sounds of war. The sounds of explosions, the sounds of volleys, the sounds of gunfights, the sounds of air defense in the city, the sounds of air raid sirens. If the fact of the deadlines of war could be removed, such an experience would indeed be rewarding for the sound designer. I felt and hear things I hadn't noticed for hundreds of game hours in Battlefield, GTA, Call of Duty, Far Cry, and many other games. What I think is hard to convey physically in sound. The sound of gunshot, the sound of an explosion doesn't sound the same as in game. A few months ago, I was at some special place for the first time where people learn to shoot and practice, shoot from real guns. There I fired by AK-47 and some pistol from last century. Also, I hear that Maxim machine gun, which must have been 100 years old. In the game, we hear a hyper-realistic sound with beautiful layering, but with beautiful attack, release, and sustain. In reality, the sound of an AK-47 firing resembles something like an incredibly intense popping sound, which would put the ear of an untrained person on that first shoot. Actually, I really didn't hear something by my right ear for days after this. I didn't have headphones. This is a training place for the military. And that sounds completely unlike a flat shot in Counter-Strike 1.6, for example, or even in modern AAA games. In addition to the sound, there is the shock wave. During a shot or an explosion, one feels not only the sound, but also the jolt. You can feel the blast wave with your whole body. That is, it is as if we feel the sound. This sensation is quite different from being pierced by the low frequencies in a club or the sound of fireworks. Obviously, so far, game engineering is incapable of conveying this effect. Reflections. Being at the firing range, which is surrounded by walls around the perimeter, I found that I could hear some incredible numbers of reflections from a single shot. Chaotic, and it was really like from all directions. Obviously, it's weird for games to load up the processor and sound engine. It's just a fact that in reality sound like this. The sound of a tank firing. I've been talking to a sound designer of Wargaming 2 years ago. Like any sound engineer, I understand that there is no microphone that doesn't break when trying to record a shot directly at the muzzle of tank. Therefore, the attack of the shot sound is often made from completely different sound layers. But that's not what I mean. I mean that a tank shot is so large scale and scary that I would be interested to find a way to convey this effect by some method in some game. Also, it all comes down to the sonic volume range and the breadth of playable frequencies in the player's sound source. I've been waiting for a long time for game engineering to use binaural technology where you can get a 330 perception of sound in your headphones, which will give more immersion in the game and more realism. Then more audio information can be conveyed about ricochets and bullet attempts at the player. In a game, it is important to convey the information component with sound. Such technology and more detailed approach to working out sound reflections would bring new colors to the soundscape. The sound of air defense work in the city is quite powerful and large scale, just like a tank shot, perhaps even scarier, even if the event takes place several kilometers away from person, and very different from the way such sounds are presented in games. It would be interesting to find a way to convey the scale of sound, events, explosions, air defense, tank shots in games. Unfortunately, there are a huge number of weapons, missiles, and military equipment in the world, and it seems to me that in games with military themes, little attention is paid to details not only of sound reflection. Of course, it depends on the resource-intensive device and optimization in the sound engine, but the future is not far off. But also the transfer scale of combat, sound position on the location, the volume depending on the power of weapons. Often the shot and explosion are very close in feeling in some games. Sound attenuation. I'm interested in finding a way to convey the difference in the player's distance to the event in the game. Science conditionally cutting off the upper frequencies of the explosions sound with a filter, adding reverberation and reflections, turns out to be insufficient. To convey the sound event in a more realistic way, I would be curious to think of an additional tool to bring it closer to realism and add new colors to the player's emotional experience. So now I want to show you some experience, some video. Yeah, if some people so emotional, just tell me, please. Okay. So why I want to show it? It's let's talking about from professional viewpoint. It was 2015 near Donetsk, near airport. Just looking for this like sound landscape. You see, in video it seems like pops, but it's really huge sound explosion. It was working of tank. In game and video we can't show this scale. I'm talking about it only for I have just idea how we can to show this scale in games, because in this way we can show more information and we can make our games more attractive. Here we need to count how many seconds have passed since the explosion. 3, 5. We can use the same way in not only military games, just we can take some real situation and use it in our game to make our game more realistic.
А вот это мало похоже на хардвер.
No sound. I never heard some effect like this in games, because I don't know why. Maybe that's why nobody hears this in real life. It's good point, but I can show you some tips. Yeah, it's more information about such a long echo after the explosion, because what I hear in games that sound designers didn't make it more detailed that it will be. Actually, in real life, some explosions is really long, has really long sound. It's my video in Lviv. It's just air siren. It's sounding like very huge sound, and you felt not only sound, you felt really huge emotions inside. And interesting how we can show it in our game. Yeah, in addition to sounds, there are event parameters that cannot yet be conveyed in games. Yet, I mean that I believe that in the future, maybe we have a lot of devices, some stuff, game devices to have more emotions and experience from gaming process.
Друзья, срочно на вышке, только что по телеге, Киев.
Even if a few hundred meters, it sounds not right now. We have some delay.
Значит, дорогошич, обстрел.
And actually, it's a really interesting example when you see some videos from Telegram channels on YouTube. Your sound experience not full, because all sounds, all military or war sounds from phone looks like some pop sound. What's this? Door impact. What's the? You know, it's. But you're feeling like earthquake under your legs. Interesting how we can to make our games more realistic without some additional devices like how would say some vibrations from your joystick. Yeah, it's video from our drummer. Here's in National Garden now. You mean? If it's really interesting and it's okay for you, we can leave here for 10 minutes. It's okay. Okay. So what I want to show here, real combat looks like a mix of huge amount of layers of explosions, shots, and we need to pay attention for attenuation. It's we need feel not only I hear some sound from my right here, left here. We need to understand how far from me it's it. Oops. One more time. Okay. It's that place where I was in some special military place when I shot from AK-47, and it's really old gun machine, maybe 100 years ago. It sounds like, again, some pop sound, but it's huge, intense sound, and you really feel it by your body. It's that case that what I said about that in reality one shot has a lot of reflections, and it's really insane to make it in our game because it's impossible for our sound engine. I mean, in case of optimization. Of course, it is important not to confuse or stun the player, but to apply some clever tools that you and I might not yet have discovered. Yeah, I really hope that none of you will ever hear this sound in real life. How to get inspired but helping those in need. A little bit about my music band, Cloudless Orchestra, about the situation in Ukraine and how experts from the Ukrainian game dev with Ukrainian companies are bringing Ukraine's victory closer. I'm from Donetsk, and it's the city where it all started in 2014 at the hands of Russia. I first saw the war in 2015. It was first video. We went with another music group to support the local people and Ukrainian military at the time when shells were whistling overhead in both directions. You have a very different perception of news and events. For you, the war is not out of there in some Ukraine. And yes, it could happen anywhere in the world. And yes, even in 2022. I found an incredible opportunities in this time. Music, a career in game development, volunteering. I guess that's what you could call this little report. By the way, about the band. The band and I will be playing an incomplete set right here tonight after the conference, for which we are incredibly grateful to the organizers for such an unique opportunity. the guys and I had, oops. The guys and I had a lot of trouble getting out of Ukraine during martial law, as we are young men or draft age, but with no military training or any military experience. We had to get a special exit permit from the Ministry of Culture. That's why, because I'm only one man from my studio. And a long and painful time we struggled with the Ministry of Culture. The fact that I'm here, it's a miracle, and therefore I realize that value of what is going on here, and I am very grateful that you are here to listen to me. And about a little bit more about music band. We are not a full band because, how I said, our drummer a National Guardian, and he's defending Ukraine, and the singer will go to home to for health reasons and continues to do volunteer work. We have already toured a few countries, and so far we have done over 30 concerts all over Europe, drive more than 7,000 of kilometers by our car. This is our first European tour, and it's quite bad reason. But why we did decide to do music during the war? We believe that, especially in crisis situations, it's important to do what you do best. We are musicians, sound designers, composers, and obviously all of our activities in one way or another are related to sound and music. We don't have the knowledge of a paramedic, we don't have how to hold a gun. I had a few shots from gun, but we do. But we believe that we are musicians are armed with an entirely different opportunity to share music with the world. Music has incredible properties. Music heals, music helps you open your emotions and let them come out. It's really important for all Ukrainians in Europe who can to come back to Ukraine. So sound helps in the game to complete the perception, brings informational and aesthetic components. Why is this important to me? What is my motivation? I can live without music since I was a child, and I adore games of totally different genres, and I try to help people reduce their suffering. More than once during our tour, we have seen refugee Ukrainians and locals. There are laughing, dancing, crying during our performances, but they always leave with a smile after the concert. We are not trying to evoke pity. We are trying to show that today Ukraine is a shield of Europe by our music, our energy. The shield of the civilized world, which was attacked by an aggressor who is mentally in the century before last, with only barbaric values. Ukraine needs security guarantees and strong financial, humanitarian, military support, so that the war stops on Ukrainian territory and does not spread to European countries. Tonight we will give an unusual, incomplete chamber concert. That's why we will be incredibly happy to share contemporary Ukrainian culture with you. I will give you additional information about concert after. And you, in turn, can help us attract donations, which we send to proven Ukrainian foundations and specific people we know personally, paramedics, volunteers. We have already sent more than 4,000 euros to paramedic group and other foundations. But it's not enough, unfortunately. However, we are here and we believe that music, altruism and love will win, which is what we want to share at our performance tonight, at the party after reports from the incredible and talented professionals in our field.
All right. Just want to say that we are kind of like really short on time and it's already lunch. So everyone who wants to get some food, of course, free to go. We do have like this lunchtime is pretty long. So we have some opportunity to ask a couple of questions. So I will pass this microphone because it's really important to have recorded video.
How it did.
Some music from the band. Yeah, as was said, please join the concert tonight. So, any questions in the audience? No? Oh, so many.
Thank you for your presentation. So I have a question about the processes of getting some real information on examples for companies. For example, we have companies who produced some games connected with war. And as you said before, it's a bit problem to get this real, like a voice recorded example and try to create like a digital version of this. And do you know some examples of like inviting people from the military sphere to get some examples to go to some like a test area and try to, I don't know, get some test push of some guns and so on, just to understand this real sound?
Yeah, I know that wargaming using some way like this. For example, a few years ago when that company developing some different games of the War of Planes. They sent a few sound designers to USA to record a lot of old American planes. That so I know a few cases, but what about real war? I think that after this war, we have some opportunity to make some new methods.
So like got some valuable insights and really incredible experience to work on. Okay, any other question? No? Great, so yeah.
Right, I wanted to ask you, what you mentioned a lot about the sounds is that it hurts your hearing. It's very painful to hear like gunshots or explosions. Do you think it's valuable to try to recreate that in video games? What's the line? How close can you get to putting a sound in a video game that could possibly hurt the players? Is there value in that? Should someone try to do that?
You know, I don't mean that we need to make game experience for 100% like in real life. I think that we can use some sound tips, like we can use binaural method. You need to Google it. You need only some usual headphones, and in this case, you can take more experience in game. And also, what I mean about how to make more realistic. For example, in game we have some sound parameters. We can do our sound very loud because it's not possible, because we have some limiter on master, we have some compressor, and for example, we can maybe in the future we can use much more expensive headphones or some stuff which helps us to see difference between gunshot and tank explosion.
Thank you very much. Yeah, big thanks for you to come in here. Like it's been, I don't know, a long trip here, I might say. It was really nice to have you here. It was really nice to have guys in the audience. You can also like catch Oh my God, sorry, I forgot your name. Anton,
Da.
right? You can catch Anton during the break for a couple of more questions. And sorry, I'm just super hungry. I want to go, but I also want to ask you a couple
That's
of questions.
why we finish
so, yeah.
right now.
Yes, so we will switch to Russian so I can ask him private questions. And yeah, please don't forget to leave some comments and feedbacks on Pine because it really helps. And yeah, leave some tags on DevGAMM and hope you enjoyed this session as well. Got some valuable insights.
Thank you, guys.